of this particular law, and now are touting it, but didn't vote for it, did not vote for it at all. So the president's going to go to Superior, Wisconsin. He'll have more to say. I'm not going to get ahead of him.
Do you suppose the president will call out that congressman in particular while he's on the ground there?
We'll see. I mean, I called him out, and we called him out on X now, I think it's called. So, you know, we'll continue to be very clear about that. Go ahead, April.
Karine, what do you have to say about the confirmation, Senate confirmation this afternoon of the 34th and 35th Black women judges in this administration?
What to say about that specifically, the confirmation? Look, this is a president who has been very clear and has stuck to his commitment when he said that he wanted to make sure he had an administration that looked like America, including obviously a judicial system that looked like America. And he's been very proud. He's been very proud of the women that he's been able, the women of color, Black women that he's been able to put forward to get confirmed for some of these judicial appointments. And so, look, you see that in his administration, you see that in his appointments. He wants to make sure that we represent what this country looks like, and he's been very proud of that.
In the long term,
yeah.
What does this administration believe that this will do to reshape the court system in this nation with these appointments?
I think it's important that we have this type of representation, and you hear us say this many times. Representation matters, and I think that is important. Make sure we have obviously not just representation, but the women and the men and women that he has been able to appoint to these positions have been incredibly experienced. They've been impressive with their own record. They're more than qualified to have these appointments, and I think that's important too.
But I'm drilling down on the Black women at a time when people are walking away from DEI, and this is historic.
It is historic. We agree with you, April. It is historic and important. It is historic and important, and let's not forget, this is a commitment that the president said that he would move forward with, right? Making sure we have representation, making sure we have diversity, making sure we have talented, experienced people in these roles, and that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. Go ahead, Risha.
Thank you, Karine. I have more questions about Boeing. Has the White House been in touch with Boeing?
Any personal conversations with executives of Boeing? I don't have any calls or meetings to read out.
Okay, so this isn't the first time the FAA and Boeing have been under scrutiny. The 737 MAX was grounded just a few years ago, and you just said that their priority is to make sure people are safe. So, did they fail here? I mean, how could we be in this position again?
Look, I'm going to start off and say the same thing that I said. Their priority is to make sure that Americans feel safe and that they are safe, and they're going to continue to work toward that goal. And look, certainly everything is being looked into. There's as it was stated by your colleague, there is a hearing happening on the Hill, and we're always going to look into what we can do, and FAA is going to do this, to make sure that we continue that we do everything possible to make sure that they are safe.
What's your message to American flyers who might be thinking, well, we can't trust Boeing, we can't trust the FAA to do its oversight part. What are we supposed to do?
I think what the president has said and will continue to say is that that's the FAA's top priority. Their top priority is certainly to make sure that Americans feel safe. That's why they launched an investigation, and it is increasing, obviously, their oversight of Boeing. And look, and we've talked about how the Boeing MAX 9 aircraft will remain grounded, right? That's what they're going to do. That's one way that Americans could feel that FAA has taken action until FAA is satisfied. They are satisfied that they are safe to return to service. And so, look, that is a commitment that Americans could be sure of. That is a top priority of FAA's. We want to make sure that we look into it and figure out exactly what happened, and they're going to get to the bottom of it.
Thanks.
Just wanted to get an updated read on inflation impacts of the Red Sea attacks. I wonder if the White House is seeing anything in the data that you may be concerned.
So we've been asked about this a couple of times. I think the Admiral may have been asked about this yesterday as well. Look, these are things that we're obviously going to continue to monitor. We have not seen any impacts. Our national security team and obviously our economic team are going to continue to keep a close eye on this, on the evolving situation in the Red Sea. The Department of Transportation and the Navy are in close communication with ocean shippers, insurers, industry, and other stakeholders, and we're taking steps to ensure shipping in the Red Sea is unobstructed. So that is something that we're certainly going to continue to monitor and keep an eye on. Okay, go ahead.
In the wake of recent job cuts at outlets like the Los Angeles Times, does the administration support legislation like that moving forward in California that would require social media platforms to pay news outlets for their content? And is the administration concerned about the layoffs at the LA Times, Time, and other outlets?
Look, we are always going to support the freedom of speech, obviously, and we believe journalists have a really difficult job, right? To make sure that making sure that they are able to report on the facts. And so certainly we're always going to support that. And we've been very clear in not engaging with the Los Angeles Times while they're going through this process. I know they went on strike, so we're very respectful of that as well. As it relates to the legislation, I haven't seen the legislation. I have not spoken to the team here, so I don't want to get ahead of that.
Thank you, Karine. This week, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for a crackdown on Zyn nicotine pouches, saying that companies seem to set their sights on young kids, teenagers, and even lower, and use social media to hook them. Does the administration believe there should be a crackdown on Zyn?
That's something for FDA to speak to. I can't speak to that from here. I've not seen that report, so I would refer you to the FDA specifically.
Thank you. There are about 800 gotaways at the border every day, 96,000 since October 1st. Does President Biden want to locate these folks who have disappeared into this country to parts unknown?
So here's what I will say is that one of the reasons that the president is having these negotiation procedures or process with the Senate, with both Republicans and Democrat, as I've said many times before, is because we want to deal with what's going on at the border. He's taken this very seriously. He wants to make sure that we come up with a bipartisan agreement, and we are very appreciative for that. But there's also the diplomatic aspect of it, of making sure that we're having conversations with Mexico, and we've had productive conversations with them. And DHS is maximizing. They are maximizing its enforcement efforts. And since May 12th, and you've heard me say this as well, DHS has been able to return more than 482,000 individuals who did not have the legal basis to be here. So we're doing what we can, right, at the border. DHS is maximizing their process, doing what they can at the border, but we need help, right? We need Congress to actually act and do their part as well, and we're having those negotiations and we're having those processes. I cannot speak to the 8,000 number you just provided to me. What I can speak to is what we're trying to do on the policy side and the funding side to make sure the Border Patrol, the law enforcement on the ground, have what they need.
Different topic. Is election denying a joke now?
What do you mean? You have to say more than just make a random statement.
Why did the president say, "Hello, Virginia," and the real governor, Terry McAuliffe?
He was making a joke about Terry. He was making
the
a joke. If you play it back, it's clearly that the president was making a joke.
What's the joke?
He was making a joke about McAuliffe's previous term as governor.
How are you guys going to convince people, though, that this idea of denying election results is very bad if President Biden is going out and making jokes like this?
Okay, he did not deny it. He congratulated Governor Youngkin. Matter of fact, when he won his election, he did it out of the gate. Out of the gate, really, truly. He congratulated the governor, and not only that, we've had opportunities to work closely with the governor over the past couple of years. And this is a president that works across the aisle. We've seen that many times, and he was making a joke. Go ahead, tell us.
Do you have an update on the border negotiations? Has the president made any calls or done anything over the past couple of days to move those negotiations along?
So the update that I can give you is that our team has been in regular contact daily with the negotiators on the Hill, doing obviously, as I mentioned many times, both Republicans and Democrats. We feel like it's been in good faith. We feel like we are grateful that these conversations have been happening for the past couple of months, and we certainly want them to continue. As it relates to the president tends to have conversations with members of Congress because of his long-term relationships with many of them. Don't have anything to read out, but I can say that our team here has been in regular contact, daily contact with negotiators.
There was reportedly a pretty raucous lunch in the GOP Senate conference yesterday. A little bit of debate over whether or not Republicans should have multiple days, potentially up to 3 weeks to review this, as opposed to a deal being put on the floor and senators being forced to vote on it very quickly. Does the president, who was in the Senate for a very long time, have thoughts on whether or not Republican senators and Democratic senators should have time to review what?
That is something, as it relates to the process and how they're moving forward, the process and the technical and the procedures and all of the things that is related to passing legislation or agreeing on a piece of legislation, that's something for the leadership to speak to. I can't speak to it from here. All right, we have to gather. Let's see. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Karine. Kirby mentioned those ongoing talks with Mexico about immigration. Has that dialogue and like the handshake deal with China from last year yielded any substantive results regarding fentanyl flow?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I believe we made some announcements. Yeah, happy to get back to you with some announcement that we made after the meeting that the president had with President Xi on what we think was a productive conversation on fentanyl specifically. Look, the president has been very clear. When it comes to fentanyl, he wants to make sure we get that out of our communities across the country, and has been very committed in having conversation with Mexico and having conversation with China. We're happy to give you a more update on that. We have to go because you all have to gather because the president's heading to UAW. Thanks, everybody.